Check out a Stifel Financial Advisor, Midwest-based, Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. A-Rod is around the corner, 22 years in the sport, 14-time All-Star, part of the Fox broadcast baseball team. Baseball playoffs start after our show. The big story today, the Davante Adams video. This was on Monday night. Really, he dropped a ball late. He collided with Hunter Renfroe. It's no excuse. He walked off the field. The initial video from above looks like he sort of targeted a cameraman and pushed him. When you get the secondary view of it, and that's why you take a deep breath on this stuff, when you see Davante walking and a guy walks right in front of him, he's got his head down, so does the cameraman, it looks much different. It wasn't as forceful. The cameraman now, he wanted to file a charge. He said he had concussion symptoms, and he has been charged with a misdemeanor assault. So, my takeaway is Kansas City Metro Police probably has, bigger issues here. I'm not a big fan of this. I think what has happened in professional sports in my lifetime is networks, Fox, ESPN, NBC, CBS. We've got more cameras. There's more people on the floor. You see this in the NBA all the time where you got 38 photographers. To me, it's like, can you have 5 pool photographers from Associated Press? I think the media has gotten incredibly invasive, and so I think we get in the players' way too much. But you can't push people. There's your story. Alex Rodriguez, Fox Sports Baseball, is joining us after a wild day yesterday of baseball playoffs. He is joining us in the herd. Here he comes. So great to see you. Good to see you. We love to get you in studio. So, let's talk Yankees first. So I was looking at something yesterday on the internet that was fascinating. Aaron Judge was a high school basketball star, a high school football star, a high school baseball star. It was unbelievable. And he's had this, he really is. I went and looked at the stats about a month ago. He leads in everything. I mean, it's unbelievable. Power, on base. So, and I think to myself, oh, this is perfect. But baseball's a long season. It's not the NFL. Has he been so crucial and so important? And I mean, he's literally carried the franchise. They've had some pitching issues. Can you get like we always talk about pitchers. You hit an innings barrier. Do you run out of juice as a hitter? Do you run out of power? Are you exhausted? Aaron's been so much. Does he have another 20 games in him?
Yeah, I think he does. And I remember when the Bulls were going, was it for 72? Yeah. They were going for. There's a part that everything relaxes at the playoffs because you've been chasing Maris. I think the last 3 weeks were incredibly difficult for him.
Well, he even struggled a bit at the plate.
And it's very stressful. And you have the Maris family going out, and you have, when are you going to put, and is Aaron Boone going to give him a day off? And Michael Kay setting up for the big call, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come. Once you hit that, you get to the playoffs, Aaron Judge can go 0 for October. He's still going to get $45 or $50 million a year and be the highest paid player in the game. Yeah. I actually think he gets a chance to relax now in the postseason.
For years and years, and you've always been good with the analytic stuff and kind of seeing around corners, for years we loved home runs, but they weren't necessarily the driving force to championships. Then analytics were introduced 5 years ago, and now it feels like if you can't hit home runs like Milwaukee, you're going to have a good roster. You're not going to win. But are the Yankees almost too home run reliant?
I don't think that the issues with the Yankees are going to be about offense. I think they're going to be about pitching. I think they have enough offense. I hate Judge hitting in the leadoff spot. I think he should be hitting third or fourth. Anytime you can hit a 3-run homer in the first inning, Reggie Jackson would always say, Alex, I get the game out of hand in the first inning because I get a 3-run homer. Well, you need that. I remember of my 696 home runs, I bet you more than 100 were probably in the first inning, and we're able to win the game in the first at bat. You can't do that as a leadoff hitter, so I have an issue with that. But besides that, I do think they have enough to win. The question is, do they have enough pitching, and are they healthy enough?
It is interesting that for years and years, good Minnesota teams could never win in the Bronx. It's just what it is. I can remember as a kid, my lousy Mariners gave the Yankees fits. Reggie, the Billy Martin teams, they would come to Seattle. Maybe they had too many oysters, and Seattle owned them in the kingdom. And so I look at this Padre team, and I'm like, oh, I love the talent. I mean, I'm watching that. I'm 3 minutes in. I'm like, first inning. Were you ever in a series where you thought you had as good a players, and that there's just a cycle? For years, the Red Sox, I thought, had as good a talent as the Yankees. Can the Padres win this series, or do you think that they just are too dominated in the regular season by the Dodgers?
I think they can, but they have their hands full. And when you read their body language, Colin, New York Mets just last week versus what we saw yesterday is a little different. And they got to get over the top in that. They are playing the big brother. Poppy called them, they're their daddies.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you have to do something disruptive. I'm not sure what that is, but it has to be a guy like Soto to play like the 2019 Soto with the Nationals. He hasn't had an extra base hit in 7 days, in 7 games. So Soto and Machado need to take him to the next level.
Well, Darvish and Kershaw. So we were talking about this in the hallway. Koufax is considered the most unhittable pitcher, but his career was very succinct. Kershaw's, it's literally forever. I mean, he was great 12 years ago. I think it's kind of, I've always felt it's a little unfair in baseball to kind of drag a legend because of postseason struggles. Everybody struggled. Bonds struggled. You've struggled. Kershaw struggled. The greats have struggled. Sandy Koufax is an outlier. If I said Kershaw at his peak and Kershaw like tonight, is he still about 90% of it? What doesn't he have that he had 6 years ago without all these innings?
Kershaw reminds me of Michael Jordan. While Michael Jordan was great in his first 10 years, I actually think the last 4 or 5 years, take Washington away, I think Jordan was better because he came with that mid-range game. He started doing the little bit of a turnaround jump shot, started to learn his body better. Tim Grover got him stronger. When I look at Clayton Kershaw, the Jordan part is when he was pitching in his early days, he was very predictable. He threw 95, 96, but every pitch to a righty was in hard. It was very predictable. Today, he's like wine. He's getting better because he pitches 4 pitches to all 4 quadrants, but he's very unpredictable. So he's a much better poker player. So as a hitter, I think he's a much tougher bat today than he was 10 years ago, much like Andy Pettitte got better at the end of his career. Jamie Moyer's another guy who was very average for the first 10 years.
That's right.
And became a savant pitching the last 10 years. They said he was done at 36. He went to win another 150 games.
So I want to talk Bryce Harper. I met his dad one time. He's a Nevada kid, so I always had a soft spot for him. And he's one of those 4 or 5 athletes. Griffey was this, Tyson was this, Tiger was this, where like LeBron, 16, you're like, oh yeah, he's going to be a legend. And most of the time, those kids do become great when somebody's that dominant. I think sometimes we don't give him the credit for what he's become. Yesterday, he's 3 for 3. How do you view his career? Because baseball, there's just so many good young players right now that it's almost like he's taken a back seat, but he's still, to me, an elite player in the game. But, you're in the Northeast. The Yankees and the Mets stole all the coverage. I mean, because Steve Cohen buys the Mets, they're literally dominate the coverage. I still view Harper is, like a guy that could change a series.
There's no question. And look, like Aaron Judge, he has the it quality. He's a star. If they go to Game 5, he'll celebrate his 30th birthday. It feels like he's 40. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
He was celebrated as a 15-year-old, but he can do it all. He's got the star power. He has the star power of the NFL, of the NBA, and we have to celebrate him. And by the way, he's been hurt all year. Yeah. He hasn't said a word. He walked on a very naive walk that led to them rallying in the 9th against the Cards. Then he had a first pitch home run on Game 2 against the Cards that hasn't landed. And yesterday's 3 for 3. He's getting hot. But I think he's a guy that's poised to bring a championship to Philly.
By the way, you're on something that I totally agree with. Football's always been so strategic in their schedule. It's really, and by the way, even the NBA, Christmas Day. That's when we kind of introduce our league to the country. NFL, literally these Thursday night games, it's rivalry games. Baseball hasn't done that as much. Now, I think the game out in the Iowa's great. But you have an idea about kind of a national day for baseball. I think it's great.
Yeah, look, I was sitting around July 4th and with my family having barbecues with the girls, and all I can see on television is a hot dog eating contest. And nothing against hot dogs. I think it's pretty entertaining. It was in the other station. But I'm sitting here saying Major League Baseball, NBA is Christmas Day. Football owns Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And July 4th, there's no basketball, there's no football. It is tailor-made for the national TV partners, Fox, ESPN, TNT.
Biggest brands, back to back to back.
All of them. And put 4 games, all dynamic. So whether that's the Yankees and Dodgers, that's the Mets and Philly, Cubs and Cardinals, starting at 12 o'clock, it should be all day baseball, and come out with your dancing shoes, because that's an opportunity to really take the game to the next level. It should also preview the All-Star game and then the playoffs. Wide open space for baseball.
45 seconds left. You started your career with the Mariners. I grew up in Seattle. You were a skinny kid, big smile, skinny kid, a lot of potential. Give me your greatest Mariner memory.
I just think it was flying across the country with Griffey, Buhner, Edgar Martinez. Edgar has a PhD in hitting from Harvard. And as a 20-year-old, as a 19-year-old, I'll be in the back of the plane, and he's telling me how to lay off split fingers and how to recognize the spin as it tumbles, and then taking that onto the field. Again, I always think that the 5 people that surround these young players are going to make a big impact in their future, and Edgar Martinez, Griffey, and Buhner did for me.
Great stuff. Great seeing you.
Great seeing you.
Alex Rodriguez stops by. Over 31,000 businesses have the confidence they